Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. This is my initial thoughts video for Taeyou. I know I'm very late to the game. In fact, I'm recording this about 2 days before the banner release. By now, you guys probably have your own thoughts, and maybe you have heard your favorite streamers, favorite content creators talk about him, and so you most likely have an idea of how he'll perform. Of course, nothing is set in stone until we test it in World Arena, and even then, it'll probably take quite a bit of testing. Of course, we have our resident RTA players that will test right away, but I think most of the conclusions will be drawn in like a week or two after his release. But here are my thoughts, alright? So let's just jump into it because, like I said, I think that a lot of you guys would already be familiar with what he does. So I'm not going to be, spending too much time on that since I didn't get to this at the early stages. So first, I wanted to show again more illustrations. This is mainly for documentation purposes. I like including this if they've included in their video. I like including in mine as well. Because he's husbando, not waifu, not much to talk about. He is a decent looking dude, I guess, if you care about what I think about that. So again, warrior. So warrior meta is insane, right? I think everybody's known this for quite a while now, and it just seems that like every single warrior they release is like super useful, and then every warrior is getting like warriors are becoming like mages, like they can do debuffs. Warriors are becoming like thieves, they could do like super high damage, and then we got the bruisers, we got the cleansers, and they're all warriors, right? Warriors are everything now. So I mean, this one wouldn't be too surprising. He is an ice elemental hero. I know the comments, I was there even on the live stream when they presented this live, and then we were all surprised. I mean, honestly, I thought that this would be fire. There's even like smoke coming out. So to have him ice, I don't think his intention was supposed to be ice, to be honest. I think his intention was fire. It's just that because of the meta, how they had to shape it, they had to make him ice for him to be a bit more usable. So I think in their showcase they show him versus Pera. If he was fire, he'd be at a slight disadvantage there because he wouldn't be able to dispel Pera's buffs. So I mean, just stuff to keep in mind there. Yeah, so he's a warrior, Virgo. If you're familiar with Virgos, that's Judge Kisei, Mui's star sign. So base speed is 115, very fast. Attack is slightly on the low side at 1039, and health and defense are actually okay. Like for warrior, I think that's a pretty good combo. But while some people are theory crafting bruiser build, I think he has that. I think his kit is built for higher speed DPS. Perhaps on pen set, but we'll see. It's just, yeah, so it's decent stuff, right? And 27 crit rate does nothing short of like good, and then effectiveness at 18 is just the extra boost. Like most likely when you're building him, you probably won't build him for the high effectiveness, but just having 18 there flat is already just better. And because if you're gonna make him a faster damage dealer, like I guess the attack could be nicer if it was higher, but I think for what they given him, this is like a well-rounded stat line. Imprint release, triple Sing will give you 10% all around, and then self imprint will be 18% attack, so not the highest of value, especially on him. So like someone like a Milim Cancer Mage would have high benefit from a triple S. She's also a 18% attack, so just comparing those two, I think they have like a 300 plus attack difference. So you could do the math there. If you do a triple S, if you do get him to triple S, that means you're a whale. But the other thing is you're gonna have an additional 187 attack. Okay, so I mean that's not nothing. It will of course add to it, but it is not crit rate. It's not something that I would recommend chasing. In fact, I would say that in the fights that you will bring him into, I don't believe the amount of attack you give him, especially from the imprint concentration, would make so much of a difference that you'd be like, oh dang, I wish I had imprint concentrated him, in terms of like I wish I pulled 4 dupes or slated or anything like that. I know a lot of people loved having a triple S ran, but like it's not the highest value, so I definitely would not recommend it. Ran on the other hand is slightly better though. I think his attack is a bit higher than that, but 1039 is nothing to sweat about. The difference between the imprint attack, if you're even gonna chase it as a whale, would be the fact that you have to get from either you have 0 imprint or you want to go straight for SSS, right? Like anything in between, you're not going to gain that much. You're not going to feel it at least. Like something like Hua Yang would be like more high value in terms of you're chasing dupes. So we'll talk about the skill 2. So Azure Waves of the Open Ocean. And honestly, I think that they're overcompensating with the names here, like really making it like if this was designed to be ice. I don't think they need to do that. But that's just my comment. But you can see the icon is still fiery red eyes, fiery red hair, and you even get some like side lighting. It's all fiery. So, you know, nothing about this talks about the open ocean to me. But after an enemy uses non-attack skills, dispel all debuffs from the caster and becomes enraged for 3 turns. Grant skill nullifier once to the caster and only can be activated once every 4 turns. Now you see the icon there, that is the same rage icon as someone as Clarissa, so Ice Clarissa. So I use her in my Farming Wyvern one-shot, so I'm pretty familiar with the icon. If you don't know what that does, it does give you a slight buff of attack and speed, 10% to be exact, so 10% speed buff, 10% attack buff, which the attack buff probably like 10% of like whatever you get him to, let's say 3500 attack is not too shabby, especially if you're probably going to chase high speed on him. So I did a mock build in Maffey's damage calculator. I put him at about 270 speed on pen set as a base, okay? So 270 speed with a 10% speed buff from the enrage buff or the rage buff is 27 speed, right? So that almost gives you a bonus of 300 speed Taeyou. So that's pretty cool, but that's only if they do the non-attack skill. Now, granted, you most likely not bring him into any fight that doesn't have a non-attack skill. I can see this being used in, like, you know, Guild War offense, like versus Guild War offense, like Peyra, Peyra and Hua Yang, or Sea Lilies and Hua Yang are very popular defense teams right now, and I feel like Taeyou will really benefit from that. When we talk about World Arena, I think Taeyou keeps like, you know, the Amelia's like slightly down there, because like if Amelia's doing a non-attack skill, at least for the first turn, most likely it's gonna benefit from the attack buff into the CR boost. So you'll most likely be able to like cut, especially if you build him fast and if you have his artifact, cut the DPS that she pushed up, and they now have the highest attack, right? So that will come in skill 2. And if it's Peyra, same thing. So it's very good. Like, it seems that he will deal with some of the top meta choices, which then doesn't necessarily make a meta, but because if he can counter certain meta setups, then he has higher value, right? Generally speaking, when we're talking about, let's say the game about 2 years ago, when you see a hero come out and you say, oh, this counters this hero, it's very linear. It's not so much anymore. So just as a like little reminder, Solitaria right now is running rampant. She's very powerful in areas like World Arena. And so, like, before when she was released, there were 2 heroes that it was pretty much her, like, she's targeting in terms of countering. It was SSB and Rylet. Now, however, if you think about this, like, Violet became meta for a while, and he's still chosen sometimes. And Arya also is a focus-based hero, but she could stop all focus gathering. Or not, is it focus? Yeah, focus, the yellow bar. So, like Solitaria then is added value on top of the fact that she is also like busted after the buffs. So that's something to keep in mind with like heroes like Taeyou as well, is that even though on paper it seemingly counters like current meta heroes, which already makes him decent, but right now like what you see his kit do is like, I would say generally flexible, right? Because if you think about the Celine, you think about the Politis scenario, if they use a non-attack skill, and almost like, let's say 50% of the heroes have a non-attack skill somewhat. Generally some support or someone that could set up the first turn for another hero. They all have non-attack skills, so this is pretty good in general. But like I said, because the dispel all the debuffs from the caster is most likely going to be like a Peyra counter. Because Sea Lilies, for example, would, you know, do a non-attack skill and then also do an S2, so she could provoke him. So if terms of like the meta picks right now, it would seem like Peyra is like that target that he's really going for. That's why the full dispel on that one. And then Celine got that benefit as well. So there's some similarities there. So I definitely believe that to add to your roster, I know I'm kind of getting to the conclusion, so I do apologize, but I do think that it's pretty apparent right now that if you if you get him, you have Celine, you have Politis, and you have Taeyou, and you have the RGB like versions of the heroes to deal with non-attack skills. All of them are slightly different, and that's what also makes it pretty decent as well. But I do feel that Taeyou has a lot of advantages, especially when we continue to talk about it. Anyway, so let's continue. Become enraged, so you get that 10% attack buff, 10% speed buff, and then you have it's for 3 turns, and you grant a skill nullifier to the caster. So immediately, so you're protected in case it's like a, you know, maybe a C Lilius doing the, I don't know, like S3 into the S1 or something like that. Just protected for that one hit. But mainly, it's actually not really for that, in my opinion. The skill nullifier is for after he does his S3, he'll be able to hopefully live long enough to do an S1. I think that's the point of the skill nullifier here, but it's still nice to protect, right? So we have a lot of these heroes now that can do the cutting, that can just either go into stealth, or they're immortal, or anything among those lines, and his is a skill nullifier. Each one has their own advantages, disadvantages. This one's pretty good in my opinion. Can be activated once every 4 turns, but you get the skill enhancement there, and it's every 3 turns, or -1 turn cooldown, so it's every 3 turns. So the enrage buff technically can stay up infinitely as long as your opponent triggers that non-attack skill, right? So that's pretty good. Okay, so let's continue. And of course the enraged buff is a solid icon, so it means it can't be dispelled. Alright, so just keep in mind, once he gets that for 3 turns, so the attack buff and the speed buff is free. So like I said, if you're 270 speed, you get another 27%, which is very, very nice. It keeps him at about 300 speed for the 3 turns that is enabled, so it's very cool. So in this screenshot, you can see what's going on there. Peyra has just did the S3 into the S2 into the S3. I always get her mixed up. S2 into the S3, so she's in the stealth, the escort buff, the barrier, and then you get the attack buff on all the team. You see that there is a restrict on the mate Chloe there. Feels bad, man. And then she missed the Hawk, and Taeyou, she obviously wouldn't miss, but he's cleansed it, and now he has the skill null. Right, so if you watch that video, you would know that. Tornado Sweep, so attacks all enemies, so it's an AoE skill, dispelling 2 buffs, and increases the skill cooldowns of the target with the highest attack by 1 turn twice. So it's very, very nice. That's a reset like Jay Kisei, even though she does it 3 times, like a Fire Cowrick, and increases attack of the caster for 2 turns. Actually, I think Fire Cowrick, let me rephrase that. I think Fire Cowrick is immediate 2 turns, so it's not a double roll. So I think his is immediate 2 turns. Or maybe because I always use Toggle's Ancient Book, I forget. But regardless, just in case I made a mistake, it's one or the other. But his is double roll. So because he has no way to ignore effect resist like Fire Cowrick, you'll most likely be gambling on it. However, if you do get 2 turns reduced, that's very, very good. So again, I think that's aiming for kind of like a Hua-Yang. Even though I would say Hua-Yang, if she gets an attack buff with the Uberi's Tooth, S1, Taeyou, even though if she hits a skill null, I think he's still dead. That's what I find. Like, I mean, Hua-Yang's pretty disgusting, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But at least she can't S3, right? So she can't take out like a knight. She can't take out like your ML Cowrick or your I don't know who else, like, you know, that you have ready. But she is still threatening. So I don't think really this kind of deals with Hua-Yang a bit, but I think mainly it's there for everything. You know, he's more generic than that even. But after the S3 even, you get an increased attack buff to the caster for 2 turns. And then when the caster is enraged, dispel buffs effects changes into dispelling all buffs. So not only do you dispel 2 buffs, you get to dispel all buffs. So the raw damage down there is also very good, but I don't think the raw damage actually cares. We don't care about the raw damage anymore, to be honest. There is actually 40 raw damage down here, so this shows that his Mola investment is quite high in terms of just getting his power up. Even though Epic 7 doesn't really need to artificially like change the power with the amount of Mola you give it, because they could just change the mods to compensate for it. So really it's kind of meaningless. It's more of like, oh, S2 we don't really have many skills to enhance, we can't think of anything. At least it's better than like ML Cowrick, right? I think ML Cowrick was like a 1 turn cooldown, 1 turn cooldown, 1 turn cooldown or something like that. Something really weird and artificial. But this is, yeah, I mean, you would max mola it most likely. But you get the attack buff, so that's keeping that in mind. The Dispelling All buff is really, really nice though, when you have the Enrage. But then that does come at a cost, right? Like, most likely DPS you are stripped. They are stripped, but if it's like a higher ER hero, which high ER heroes right now are quite popular in World Arena. Just to note though, I actually don't think that his S2, even though kind of like it's not a non-attack skill, alright? So it's not like an ML Cowrick S2, it's not like a Alina S2 or anything like that. It's it kind of just triggers like Dilibet, so it wouldn't trigger a Politis or anything like that. So just keep that in mind, I think. And then skill 1 attacks the enemy with a spear and increases combat range as it cast by 15%. That's pretty nuts, right? Like on such a fast hero, the potentially fast hero, I should say that it is gear dependent. If 15% combat range on the S1 is pretty insane, and then damage out proportional to caster speed. So we get that. He's a speed scaling DPS, and then when the caster is in rage, activates Tidal Crash as an extra attack. Tidal Crash can only be activated once per turn during the caster's turn. Tidal Crash attacks the enemy by slashing downwards with the spear, damage out proportional to caster speed. Soul Burn will actually increase the full damage of this. So I have the data mine or the damage mods for all skills. I just wanted to say it out right now. So like I said, I am using Maffey's damage calculator. So if you don't know Maffey's damage calculator, you can search that Epic 7 Maffey, M-A-P-H-E. I know some people in the comment section is asking like, why did I do the damage calculation? This is very, very accurate. Maffey works with a couple people that even I personally know, in terms of on Discord at least. So it's pretty accurate. It's not just like a one person thing. But I set the attack to 3,500 and 270 crit damage, which is relatively simple to get. He has 27 crit rate, so you could run a crit damage neck on him for sure, pretty much. Increased attack is turned on, so because of the S3, and I have target that they're hitting is a 1500 defense, and he has 270 speed. And I checked the caster has rage. So ideally you're drafting him or using him in a scenario where they will do a non-attack skill, and so therefore he will get a rage. So if you're not doing it in World Arena, at least the Guild War defense that you're fighting against, they most likely have a Payra there. So he's gonna immediately be usable there. Now these are the damage mods. So the S3 has a 1x attack rate and 0.9 POW. The S3 is not a speed scaling skill. So it's somewhat surprising to me. Sometimes I see speed scalers have the speed scaling on all the skills, or defense scaling heroes have it on all the skills, HP as well. This one's kind of interesting, it just doesn't have it, but it's okay. So all the speed scaling is really on the S1. Again, this is an AoE skill, so this is the damage mods are not terrible. Again, attack rate of 1, power of 0.9. This is a very standard. Anything higher than this makes him a very strong AoE damage dealer. But it does just keep in mind that even with those mods, he does have 40% more damage coming from his Mola though. Okay, so most heroes have about an average of 30. So realistically, he has about a 10% more damage than most AoE heroes, unless they're actually built for cleave, so built for AoE. And then the S1 damage, if you don't Soul Burn, it has a 0.98 attack rate and a mod of a power of 0.9. It's quite low. This is lower than most people's S1. S1's standard would be like a 1x mod. This is slightly lower, but the speed scaling of it is a 0.075, which makes it roughly, depending on your speed again, it makes it roughly back to 1. Okay, 1x mod. If you Soul Burn it, it does increase, as you can see there. It becomes a different monster. It becomes a 1.65 mod attack rate and the power is 0.9. The speed scaling is identical, but what you're looking at here is someone that can do like a Luna S1. Alright, so if you have a pen set, well, Luna S1 Luna S1 on the second hit, not the third hit. I think the third hit is a 2x mod or something on Luna, something insane like that. But it is very strong. If you're on a pen set, it does a lot more damage. With the stats that I provided, if you soul burn on a 1500 defense hero, like some kind of bruiser, you're doing 13,000 damage with just the regular setup of his. He's enraged. He has attack buff from his S3, and you soul burn this. That's just from the straight S1, not title crash. You're doing 13,000 damage, 13,500 to be exact. The extra attack then on top of the fact, if you have the enraged, is a 1.2 times mod, power of 1.3, speed mod is the same, and it's an extra attack. It based on the damage calculator with the same opponent, it does another 10,000 damage. So we're talking about 23,000 damage just from himself. I think that's pretty strong. That's definitely strong. If you're using him going into a Hua-Yang is dead, even with the 30% reduction, unless the Hua-Yang is built with 20,000 HP, which is very unbeneficial for her because then she'll start lacking the S3 kills. But you'll most likely kill her because elemental advantage as well. You get an extra 10% damage on top of that if you have elemental advantage. But if you don't, 23,000 damage, not too shabby, right? So 3,500 attack, 270 crit damage, and it's a pen set. 270 speed. This is not like the best gear you can get on this type of hero. You could definitely go higher. Probably higher crit damage, even higher speed. So your damage will of course fluctuate, but what is guaranteed is of course that enrage buff and then the attack buff from the S3, right? So I think again, overall the hero himself, he should be pretty strong, especially in the current meta. But in the future, just like my example with Solitaria and all these heroes, it's all about really just, you know, putting your opponents in a situation that they don't expect. And I think the game is not really like just functioning on like what heroes counter what hero now. It's not like a 1-for-1. It's like you have to consider a whole aspect, a whole variety of combinations and chemistry now as a counter. It can't literally be just like one-on-one anymore. It doesn't really work that way. Yeah, so the artifact itself was not even included in the discussion of the damage. If you do get this artifact, and I do advise players to get this artifact because this is a warrior artifact. Warriors were at once, I mean, I guess you could still say it, they are still one of the classes that have some of the worst artifacts. I would say warriors and soul weavers have some of the most limited artifacts. This one seemingly might be good. I think it would be good for him, probably his best in slot. You have an increased attack of 20% if you max it. That's his plus 30. If you plus 15, it would be at a 15% attack, which is not too shabby. If you have triple S and then you have a max artifact, it means you're a whale. And you should be ashamed of you. I'm just kidding. Thanks for funding the game. But no, if you have both of those things, then you are looking at a slight, like a huge buff on this character, right? The flat attack on this is 273, is very high for a warrior. I believe that is the highest amount. That's like a Sigurd Scythe or Uberi's Tooth, I believe. Something along those lines. That's a very, very high base attack artifact for him. 273 right away. That's more than his triple S. So you're looking at what, like 25% more attack or something like that? 26%? Very, very good, right? So now if you compound this 20% attack and then his 18% imprint, you're looking at 38, right? 38% more attack on Taeyou is like beyond what you can roll for in the gear requirement that he most likely needs. I do recommend him at least being 270 plus because this only increased the combat range of 10%. So I don't know the math exactly because it's late for me. I didn't work it out. People who calculate CR and do the math, you could do it. I think he needs to be 270 to cut with a 10%. I think even higher actually, to cut a 300 speed hero, all right? Or someone who can cut to 300 speed. So i.e. Peyra into like an Edda. Like you know, again, it depends on the edit speed. There's a lot of variables here, but some people are saying that, hey, maybe this is really good for those Hua-Yang defense teams, right? So some people are running like the 260, 270 speed Hua-Yang just to be able to catch people off guard. This might be her best in slot for defense. I don't know. Yubira's Tooth is very strong, but Yubira's Tooth is extra strong on the S1. So generally on a defense team, you're not really thinking about how the S1 will perform, even though you would want it to perform. The S3 is really the cake there, because if you kill off a target, then they might have a hard time recovering. So that's the idea, at least for a Guild War defense concept. But again, I do believe that this is a decent artifact. Again, it kind of reminds me of the Selene artifact, although the Selene artifact gives you more combat readiness and also provides it a full attack buff, which is 50% attack. This is the warrior version, and I don't believe that... I believe that this warrior artifact is a must-have, though. That's the thing. So, like, we have the Azure Comet, we have Sigurd Scythe, we have Yubira's Tooth, Draco Plate. I guess the Magic Mask, so Rimru's artifact, is sort of used. Not as much, but you know what I mean. We're not really, you know, swimming in the best warrior artifacts at the moment. So I believe this one's a definitely pick up. So anyways, hopefully that wasn't, you know, actually I think that's longer than I planned it to be. But if you are watching this and you know, like my thoughts on these, I do appreciate you watching. I will end this for the video recording, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think he's usable? Am I missing something? If you're thinking about, oh, people like these heroes counter him and stuff, don't worry about that too much. So in talking about like you know, Violet counters him or Rimuru counters him or something like that, it's not like, don't think about it that way. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think about Taeyou? Are you gonna be pulling for him? I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.